This is one of my favorite details that exists in these older bathrooms.
Pretty amazing to see what's behind these walls.
This could be an opportunity to actually save some money, so we want to do our due diligence to explore it.
Welcome back to the Street Project. It's Monday, day 7 for us. We're counting calendar days, not just working days. That's how we do it here in this business, at least. And things are looking really good. Third floor demo is mostly done. A little bit of cleaning up to do up here still, but it's looking good, it's feeling good. You can start seeing the project coming together. You saw what it looked like last week when we were walking through this pile of rubble and debris. All that's out of here now. So third floor is pretty solid. The only things left up here right now are things like getting these radiators out of here, which have just been drained. We have a little bit of cleaning up here to do, and then we can start kind of coming up with a game plan of how we're gonna attack things. You know, we've already mentioned insulation, flooring, and what the build back is gonna look like. Nice big hole in the floor. This remains one of my favorite features of this house. I think this is the key that Benjamin Franklin used to invent electricity. Don't look at my sources on that. So I'm just gonna start up in this bedroom right now on the second floor. We've done a little bit of experimenting. You can see some of the wallpaper is being taken down. The floors are up in this room, so you can really start to see all of these, all the knob and tube that got installed in here was installed using holes in the floorboards going over the joists. And you can start to see these things all over the place now. It's really interesting. But here's what I really want to show you. It's going to be these two bathrooms. Actually, I'm going to kick it over to Sasha for a little bit to show us some of the really cool details that we've uncovered in these bathrooms here. So actually, I'm going to pass this off to Sasha so he can talk to you a little bit about what we're looking at in here.
Whew. All right. I'm gonna pull my mask off a second because I'm really excited about this bathroom. But this is one of my favorite details that exists in these older bathrooms. There was so much weight in here, so much cementitious mortar, and just any like setting materials. Everything was a wet bed. So look at these pointy joists. We ran across this at an 1890s house in West Philly that we did. That was almost 100 years newer than this, but what the installers did when they were doing the tile, they hand chamfered these joists with a hatchet, most likely. And then they poured mortar in between all of this and it kind of keyed it in. I'll overlay some footage we had before they took everything out. But what these points did, it kind of keyed in the mortar and it alleviated any stress points. So there's no corner for when the house inevitably racked to transfer vibration or transfer movement up through the tile. So this is the first uncoupling membrane. It's a lot more primitive and probably a lot cheaper than that the Ditra stuff that we use in all of our bathrooms now that's going in here. So really amazing detail. The plumbing, this is not an old lead line, although there are some lead lines in here. We're scratching this. This looks like galvanized pipe that they sweated in place. And actually, you know what? Might be copper. I'm sure it's copper. It's just dirty copper. No, it's too hard to be copper. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna ask our plumber. I'm gonna cut this out because I'm gonna look like an idiot. Ah! But look at this wall. Look how much tile there is on here. So could you imagine having to float this tile out? It's amazing. I know we're gonna get some flack for not being able to save more than we can, but I mean, this is about 3 inches of mortar on this brick wall, and it's just so much weight that we're getting to have here, so much space that we're freeing up, and they tried prying these, this isn't coming off. This bathroom is really exciting for us to have it demoed out because we get the answers to a lot of questions. And actually, if we look up top, looks like we have another bathroom with a similar condition up there. Is this a roof up here? Shut the f up, Steve. I'm gonna cut that out. I'm gonna leave that in. Got my bearings. That's the roof up here. So we're gonna run into some problems because there is not adequate insulation up there. And this is a little bit worse than the condition that's upstairs when we had 3x8 rafters. These look like true, they look like 4x4s. They look like 3x4s, I guess.
Like a modern 4x4, which would be like a...
Yeah. Random rough cuts of lumber that don't go all the way continuously. So we're gonna have some change orders up there. I know the homeowners are watching this series, so sorry they have to learn that way. We'll be gentle. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that we're learning from this bathroom. One, that the floor joists run this way. They run party wall to party wall. That's what we expect, but sometimes when there's old additions, when there's the back of the house, they can't lever the stairs. What we really have to do is figure out how the joists run in the room beyond there, but why that's relevant, we have a decent amount of structural work down below us to open up the wall into the kitchen. This was what was proposed to be the original back wall of the house. We have to do a lot of steel work. We have to form the foundation, set structural steel, and then make, it's pretty complicated structural work to get an opening in. Once we talk to our engineer, if we can remove this whole brick wall, that's gonna save us a lot of money. That being said, we have to see if there's anything else to consider, like how it's tied into the side walls, if we have to star bolt anything. That's why demo is one of the most important, if not the most important stage of the project. It lets us really know what's going on. So let's get out of this bathroom. We've interrupted workflow enough. Thanks, Steve. Hey, back in there. Guys, I know this is day one of the work week, starting off on a Monday, but we got a surprise for you. Newest member of the Green Building Network team. This is Brandon, he just joined us. He's gonna be integral in this project as well. So our team is growing. Thank you guys so much for the support and loving what we do. So we can't wait to show you guys the rest of this project. We can't wait to show you guys the rest of this project.
Once we get to 10,000 subscribers, we'll have Brandon take off his mask and do a face reveal.
What's up, guys? So one thing that always shocks everybody every time there's demo in a house or a big project, something like this, is how much actually comes out of a home, especially these older homes. There's so much plaster, so much concrete, mortar, you name it, it's in here. Ripping it out, getting rid of it, the right way is important. We are on to our third truckload. If you take a look out here, we were at around 13,000 pounds with the last two. So this one should bring us close to about 20,000 pounds. It sounds like a lot. And when you look in here and you see all these walls still remaining, it just gives you a good idea of how heavy and how much is actually in a building like this.
So it's pretty amazing to see what's behind these walls, what's hidden here, and it just reminds us how much this house, that actually looks like me as a kid. That looks like a combination of me and my sister.
That's unfortunate.
We can't all be Spirit Halloween models, Adrian.
Don't look it up.
I'm superimposing that on here. But the coolest thing about these projects is seeing how much history is in these houses, what's been going on over the years, how many people have called this place a home, and we are excited to kind of honor that and do things properly, give this place, give the homeowners somewhere comfortable, durable, and efficient that they can, continue their life with their growing family in. So this bathroom is totally done. It looks like it's been remodeled more recently. We can tell, there's they probably left that mortar under this plywood floor, but there's a new subfloor. The plumbing's relatively newer fixture, which is kind of crazy to think that it's new. But all this knob and tube was active. And that's actually... pretty robust. Being how brittle is not what really bothers us about knob and tube. It's the lack of ground, it's the shared neutrals. It's the fact that there's no dedicated circuits. It's the fact that there's buried splices. So we get asked all the time if knob and tube is as bad as everyone says. Short answer, yes. Long answer, it's complicated. But whenever you have walls open, it's always the time to remediate knob and tube. It's not making a comeback, guys. One more thing at this stage, we're kind of realizing what's been done to the house. So we know there's been some work that's been done in this bathroom, but there's new sections of cast iron pipe that have been installed. So there's been some leaks around here at some point. No one really replaces cast iron when it's functioning properly. So we're gonna be on the lookout to look for any flooring damage. I would guess when we pull up this subfloor, we're gonna find some rotted out wood that has to be addressed. And in case the homeowners are watching, we anticipate some of this stuff. What's up, guys? Day 8, Tuesday. It's Christmas Eve, and it is a little snowy. So not part of construction, but part of the construction process. We're gonna salt and shovel to make sure that the homeowner doesn't have any issues down the road. Short day, see you on Thursday. Can't really get any cool action shots. And of course, there is a parking space right in front of the house. I parked down the block.
What's up, guys? Thursday, day after Christmas, day 10 of this project, and still doing demolition. It's gonna be one of those things, we probably got 4 solid days left and then some detail work, but let me show you what we got. More trash staged here. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We're doing our best to separate metal from all the other debris so that we can scrap it, get some of it repurposed, but check it out, guys. We are in the process of tearing up the old, I learned that it's 5/16, not 1/4 inch oak flooring. We're gonna try to save some of this for other projects. We don't really need any left in the house, but we're going for 10 to 20% saved lumber. So that's coming up. This subfloor is also coming up too for the asbestos remediation downstairs, but for now we're just staging, clearing things up, making it easier for us to work. Haven't even tackled the kitchen yet. It's not going there. Here's a cool detail. If you remember when we started this project, carpet was looked brand new. It's almost worn down entirely. That would be our stairs if this carpet wasn't here, so glad it stayed. We've already touched on the 3rd floor, pretty much all gutted at the roof and the walls that are coming down. Not too much to see, we'll show you tomorrow. This room, it looks like a really old room, but it's ready for us to start working, so that's pretty exciting. Gets me every time we see these knob and tube holes. We're actually gonna do a separate video on just the knob and tube in this structure too, so be sure to check out, keep an eye out for that. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now. The demo crew just left. They're working 8 o'clock to 3, so they're out of here. Dust is starting to settle. One of the things that we just had them send today was demoing this roof up here. And that actually kind of worries me because it feels damp to the touch. There's clearly been some water damage that's happened before. This is an old plaster and lath ceiling, right? So we can see it's been sistered and repaired from up top, at least right there. So what looks like happened, there was some major damage, and they ended up replacing part of the roof decking and putting a new EPDM roof on top there. So we're gonna have them take down this whole ceiling. A, it's not that expensive to put up new drywall, not that expensive to demo it. B, it'll help us run electrical. So when we run wiring, we can run wiring all through the ceiling, drop it down for our outlets so we don't have to go through the floor or baseboards, and we can get a nice light in the center of the room. We don't have to worry just about switched outlets, so. Every time we come in here, there's more work, more change orders, but it's the nature of this phase. You know, little stuff like that. That was an old through wall vent. I don't know why they would have had that here in a residential house. It's possible they had a little kitchenette up here. It's possible they just had some makeup air coming in. They had another unit, but it's something that we're gonna have to get our masons in here to key in and patch nicely. The plus side, it's on the alley wall that's been torn up quite a bit, so we don't have to go for perfection on that, but we still want it to look nice. So this is one of the bathrooms, and square foot per square foot, bathrooms are a ton of work to get done properly. There's mechanical, tile, electric, everything in a really small area. So this is about 80% done being demoed. We have a change order we're gonna ask our engineers to see if it's possible. We want this entire wall to come down. It's about 8 feet of brick wall. It's not tied into the roof systems. Our joists aren't running this way, which sometimes they do. Typically they run party wall to party wall, and it looks like it's not really connected in any meaningful way up above that brick wall. So our engineer is calling for us to do some pretty robust steel work from the first floor so that we can make a kitchen opening and have that kind of open flow in the first floor. We're gonna do all that steel work, all that foundation work just to save this brick. If we can pull this down, that's gonna save the clients a ton of money. So our question with the engineer, we might actually bring in two, just one to kind of do a little CYA approach on our part. But I just want to make sure that by us taking down this wall, we're not affecting this wall's strength. You know, corners are one of the strongest parts of building too. So this wall, we don't want it to just be freestanding or connected loosely to the other wall. So they might tell us you can't do that. They might tell us put a couple star bolts there, a couple star bolts there, a couple star bolts on the first floor, but we're bringing up a decent amount of change orders. You know, we're finding a lot of stuff under the plaster, under the floors. This could be an opportunity to actually save some money, so we want to do our due diligence to explore it. This is another can of worms that we are going to start digging into probably tomorrow. This house has been around since the year 1800, so it's seen a lot of stuff through its life. Sometimes it needs a fresh start. This has been mechanical, then renovation, then mechanicals, then renovations. This is probably 6 generations of rehabs that we're seeing in this system right here. We're taking it all out. We're starting fresh. We're doing nice pressure tested PVC, bracketed properly, vented properly, but you know, we've had some damage in this house, we can tell. These stacks have been replaced. The dryer has been cut into here. There is some evidence of leaks, there's some evidence of rot, so we wanna start fresh. And sometimes houses really just need that. Yeah. All right, day 11. Demo guys just left. And most of the floor is up in here. Ironically, getting the flooring up, these boards, or I should say slats, is the less time consuming part. What we have to do now is pull up every single one of those nails or smash it down if we're not saving the floor. There's a couple creaks we need to address, which we will knock out at a later date. So we'll figure out where we're gonna put all this stuff. Looks like it's been refinished 1 or 2 times already, just by the thickness and thinness of it. Pretty great shape though. The demo guys started in the basement today, taking some of the stuff out. We're not gonna go down there because I don't have a light and I'm a giant baby. But there is a few hundred board feet of cedar plank down there. I wanna see if we can use it for something, at least some sort of shiplap. Kind of a landing area in here in the kitchen. Tomorrow we'll also probably tackle these cabinets. But yeah, this is 11 days into the project so far. It's worth noting too that we're going pretty carefully. We have small crews in here. We don't want to damage anything. We don't have too much parking on the street. We can only bring so much stuff down before we bring it out. So it could be done quicker, could be done cheaper, but we want to wrap our heads around everything, do it methodically, do it carefully, not piss off neighbors too much. So that's also a balancing act. A, we can get it done quicker, or B, we can get it done louder. And we can get it done either quicker and louder or slower and faster. You get what I'm saying? So if we look up, we'll see a pretty common detail, which is kind of what we were expecting up on the other roofs. There is a drop ceiling here, which is good that that's some damage. But the roof, that beadboard, pitches towards the side that has the scupper box and the downspout, and they drop the ceiling to make a flat roof, or a flat ceiling here. That gives us space to run mechanicals and for insulation and everything else. But what we're really concerned with right now is A, getting the wiring in, B, getting enough insulation in, and C, inspecting the roof to make sure everything's in good condition. So that is not connected to anything anymore. This was pretty catastrophically rotted out, and that's not really an acceptable way to sister a joist. Couple nails, notch it where it doesn't work. So this was done by the roofers just to give themselves somewhere to put the sheet in. As it continues to rain when we have the ceilings open, we're gonna look for more leaks.
I would guess, if you look back at some of the earlier videos, that tin siding is right above there. I think we're gonna run into some trouble with the way it was flashed, and you know, the roof maybe was or maybe wasn't underlapped under the siding, or the WRB, which probably doesn't exist on this age siding. So I think the first step is gonna be observe. Second step is going to be to tackle that envelope. And we wanna make sure we do that when everything's open so we can see if it is, you know, if we did a good job. These guys absolutely crushed this bathroom. So we can tell there was remodels done downstairs at some point just because of the plaster and lath is all gone. And it looks to be some sort of older drywall. I bet we could probably get a serial number off of that, but it was time for that. Oof. So I'm actually, while we're here, going to take some videos for our engineer. He requested a couple more pieces of information. So we will be able to see if this wall can actually come down. I might just publish this video and tell him to subscribe to our channel. 2 birds, 1 stone. Ah. Here's that bathroom. There was a rat's nest of pipes and wires and everything else. So that looks like it was the original level floor. Might have been retrofitted into a bathroom. I'm not quite sure. Maybe not. They could have just done the false floor to put somewhere to have all the mechanicals. Not sure how much I want to research into figuring out the hypotheticals, but you know, over the years, definitely some stuff was happening. So we have a combination of metal lath and plaster and more traditional wood lath here. So this is actually a really nice kind of example of both in the same place. My theory is that it was a repair that was done and they used the more modern metal lath, which is kind of consistent to all these miscellaneous little openings in this wall. If anyone else knows, drop it in the comments. We'd love to get some more insight on stuff like this. Hello, darling.
Hi, did you hear from Nate?
I did. You're on speakerphone right now, though.
Are you with Nate? Who are you with?
All of our subscribers.
Layla?
No. The actual subscribers, not just the dog. I'm doing a
Live right now?
Yeah, I'm doing a video walkthrough.
Oh. Hi, everybody. Subscribe.
Can I call you in a couple minutes?
Yeah.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Doesn't really come across well on video, but these original floors are beautiful. One of the things that is so impressive about them is just how long the boards are themselves. It's not uncommon to find boards that are, you know, close to 20 feet long in these older houses, and you just can't replicate that. So when you have to replace these and kind of key them in, you can only get so far. So it'd be really cool if we could save these. I don't know how possible that's gonna be. If the floor was in better condition, as far as the structure and the level, there is, you know, a 4-inch dip back there that we can't really do too much for. So we might be able to pull it up, put it back down, but we also have to go into the kitchen, and we wanna make sure we have tile in the areas that get a lot of traffic and water. So maybe they can be saved, maybe they can't. It's also worth noting that there is also a break right here where the subfloor style changes. So at some point, something else happened. And this joint right here is what I want to share with the engineer. How the brick is tied in, if there's any movement. You know, the fact that there's like a little bit of a crack right here. Just the general condition of things. We'll do some repair pointing right below that window. I'm not sure you can see it that well. I didn't realize we had alley access. kind of know. But this is going to be great for getting in and out some trash. It's also kind of creepy as it's starting to get dark. Also, this whole structure right here coming down. Not sure when that's going to happen. We need to get a zoning plan submitted for that, so we're going to demo from the inside. Hopefully there's catastrophic damage that can't be fixed, and our building inspector just lets us take it down. But once we get some more room down there, I was hoping these would be more historical bricks. They're not. Those holes in the middle that lets mortar key in, those are a newer detail. But I'm guessing these ones are some of the older ones, so these will make their way in the basement. When our mason comes by to repair that little through-wall duct where they ran the line set for the mini split, maybe they'll be able to use those to key them in. Guessing they did this for either an outlet or a window unit for an air conditioner. Sometimes with that knob and tube, they don't have enough amperage to not trip breakers and run a window unit. So that's probably what we're looking at. All right, guys, so that wraps up week 2. And if you've been following along, we really appreciate the support. This vlog series is fun for us to do. Normally, a lot of the series we do, it's demo, then it's framing, then it's plumbing, then it's mechanicals, then it's electrical, then it's drywall, insulation right before that. This one is a little more true to the project. It's not so linear. We could have multiple different trades coming in at a different time and not everything finishes up. So we want to give you a true representation of what it's like for us to work in these older houses. If you have any questions, make sure to drop in the comment. We love getting that conversation started there, and we're happy to share whatever information we picked up. And we also believe in sharing the mistakes that we made too. We're not going to drop a video next week. Instead, we're going to put a link to our other playlist that has a 6,000 square foot building that we're developing in the suburbs of Philadelphia. This one's really close to my heart. It's one of the biggest projects that my construction company has done yet, and it's also one of the biggest investments I've ever made. So we have a lot to talk about on that one. It took us about 2 years to get financing, building permits, zoning permits, changing the uses, but we have a really fun series that we're starting up about that whole project. So there's one on getting your building permits, there's one on phase 1 inspections, there's a walkthrough of the project. We'll put a link to the playlist right up here so you can check it out for yourself. But well, these are a little more free-form vlog style, just constant information drops. That one's a little bit more polished, a little more sequential, and you might like both styles. So if you do, drop us a like, drop us a comment, tell your friends, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and thank you guys so much. We'll see you in a couple weeks.